This video has taken me so long to start. I've literally just got 7 minutes in and was like, I'm literally just talking shit. So I'm starting it again and hopefully I'll be a bit more coherent. But so this isn't my usual beauty, skincare, empties, whatever sort of video. Instead, it's basically going to be my career journey. So I don't know if this is of interest to anyone, but I get a lot of messages on Instagram and on email just about asking for career advice and how I got my job. And even though it's a story that I feel like I've told a million times before, I feel like it would probably be useful to have it in one place for people to watch. That might not be the case. Sorry if no one really gives a shit, but I'm going to do it anyway. But before I get started, for the music fans, I'm listening to Westlife because I wanted to listen to them in my last video and couldn't because my Sonos wasn't working, but now it is, so here we go. Don't even know if you can hear it, to be honest, but yeah. So I have been a beauty journalist for 8 years now, so it was 8 years in September officially, and I moved to London 8 years ago in September as well. I did a journalism degree at De Montfort University in Leicester, and ended up doing that because I didn't want to do an English degree, and for some reason it seemed like the second best option after that. The course was very newspaper focused though, and it was NCTJ accredited, which I never got an NCTJ accreditation. I don't even think I passed any exams, maybe like 3, which was a massive cause of a lot of arguments between me and my parents, especially because we had to pay for every NCTJ exam that I took and the retakes. So yeah, sorry mum, sorry dad. But yeah, so I graduated from there in 2011, and it was after I'd graduated that I started doing internships. So at this point I had a blog, and I'd been blogging for a while. I mean, I lived online throughout my teenage years. Like, I literally am such an internet weirdo. But yeah, so I'd had a blog, and it was kind of becoming more beauty focused. I also had a column that I wrote about beauty on a website called At Home Magazine, because my friend Celine worked there. So that was kind of, it was more just, I think, for my portfolio at uni, but it also helped me realise actually I loved beauty. So yeah, that was that. And I did actually intern at a few different places, so it wasn't all beauty, but my first internship was I think it might have been at Ms magazine. So I loved the idea of working at like a teenage girls magazine, so Ms or Bliss or something. I don't even think any of those exist anymore, but yeah, so I interned there and loved it. And then I decided to try my hand at radio just to see sort of if that was a path that I wanted to maybe take. So I did some internships at local radio, Links FM in Lincoln. Hated it, it was awful. The people were not very nice, and I think, I can't remember how long I was supposed to be there. It might have been a week, it might have been longer, but yeah, I really didn't like it, so I think I quit early. And then I managed to get in at Radio 1, so I don't know if anyone remembers, but Scott Mills had a producer called Becky Huxtable, and I literally hounded her. I was obsessed with that show, and eventually I got in to shadow her for 2 days, and that was honestly like the dream. I was like, this is it, I want to work in radio, I want to be a producer. But obviously that didn't happen, and then I applied for an internship at Psychologist magazine in London, and that was a beauty internship, and that was like my first taste of it. And it was that, I think it might have been 2 weeks, or it might have been a month, but yeah, I loved it so much, and I was like, right, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be part of a beauty team, and I want to just write about makeup, so that's kind of what I wanted to pursue. At this point I was still living at home, so back in Grimsby, which is about 4 hours away from London, had no family or friends in London, and I was working full-time at McDonald's, which is somewhere that I'd worked since I was 16, but only part-time. And it was after I graduated that I went full-time, which was obviously not the dream. Like, you don't go to uni and then go home to work at McDonald's, you know, like, it just felt a bit of a step backwards. But looking back, that was kind of the thing that helped me out massively, because had I have got like an office job or some sort of admin role like post uni, I would have been stuck to like 25 days holiday a year, and it would have been a lot more rigid. Whereas at McDonald's I had the freedom to essentially like come and go as I pleased, so I could kind of request holiday as and when I wanted it. So if internships did come up, I could just drop everything and go to London. Full transparency, I did have free train because my dad works I don't have free train anymore, but my dad works for National Rail, so that was kind of the thing that really helped me in terms of being able to travel like quite freely to London. But I did have to pay for all my accommodation, so oh my god, I have some stories about the accommodation that I stayed in. There was one that I stayed in East London. I found all these random websites that would just advertise rooms and just stay in them. But there was one that I was meant to stay in, I can't remember where it was, but I got picked up in this blacked out BMW and driven across London to a different room to the one I'd booked. Then I stayed in Tottenham, and I ended up actually staying on the road where the man got stabbed that caused the Tottenham riots. So that was fun. I digress. So yeah, I'd done a week at Psychologies and absolutely loved it. I'd been to events, I'd done beauty sales, like I was obsessed. So then I went back home to Grimsby and then got a call from Cosmo. So actually they approached me because they'd had an intern drop out and they needed someone to replace that person quite quickly, and I happened to be available, happened to be able to get to London and be able to work that week. It was only a week, but I was like, right, I'm just going to do it. And I'd never really dreamed of approaching Cosmo because I just thought it was too good for me. Like, I just thought that there's no way that anyone's ever going to reply to me, and it's probably a bit short-sighted in hindsight. So yeah, they approached me and I did a week there and absolutely loved it. And then they invited me back for another 3 weeks, and at this point you could do 4 weeks unpaid internships, and then after that they'd have to pay you. So I did my 4 weeks unpaid, and then apparently made such a good impression that Inga, the beauty director at the time and my first boss, invited me back. So I would then start doing like a week here and a week there, and that lasted maybe, I think my first internship was in the July 2011, and then I think it was August, September 2012 that I eventually went full time. So I did a few like weeks here and there, and then it was during those weeks that I was paid £50 a day. So that was the day rate that they were paying me, and I was like, brilliant, I'm being paid, this is great. And then yeah, it was this September actually, and Inga said to me, she was like, do you want to come and work for us full time for 3 months? So I was like, absolutely, yeah. So I don't know what had like changed or what had like happened that meant that they could take someone on. So I didn't have a contract, I had no job security. I was told that this was going to be 3 months and then we'd see what happens. So I took the opportunity. So I quit my job at McDonald and then moved to London. So I managed to find somewhere to live through Twitter. And then yeah, it all happened quite quickly, but I moved to London. And then those 3 months turned into basically 3.5 years. So I just essentially never left, but I stayed on £50 a day for 3.5 years. So that's not something that would ever happen now. I also knew that if I wasn't going to accept that as a wage, then someone else would. And I wanted it so badly that I was like, I'll make it work. And I did. That was the only choice I had. And I was just so determined that it was worth it, and it was worth the struggle. But then after that length of time, so yeah, coming up to like 4 years, I can't remember how old I was at that point, maybe like 24, 25, I was like, right, I just need more money, like I can't carry on like this. So then I started applying for other jobs. I got a job as beauty writer. This was in 2015, beauty writer at Superdrug's Dare magazine. So that was part of an agency called the River Group. And I started there, and I think it was that in the October? Maybe October 2015. So I got a job there, and that was a proper salary, proper benefits, like proper team. And there I kind of learned a lot. Like, not only was it a promotion in title, but it was also just like more responsibility. It was more like, it was learning more about how magazines work, like in terms of the production. And because the team was so much smaller, I kind of had a lot more to do. So I was there for 10 months before I eventually moved back to Cosmo in July 2016, I think it was at this point. So Inga actually approached me and said, there's a job coming up, it's yours if you want it, proper contract and everything. So then I took that again as my sign and was like, okay, great. So I quit the job at Superdrug and went back to Cosmo as beauty writer. And then I was there for maybe, was it another 18 months? Yeah, I was at Cosmo from like July, August 2016 all the way up until I left to go to Stylist as beauty editor. So I applied for the Stylist job the end of 2017 and started there in the February 2018, and I've been there for 2.5 years now. So yeah, I feel like I've kind of had to move on to move up, because a lot of like the jobs in journalism, like I feel like people stay in roles for so long that it's really hard to get promoted in the place that you are. And I like worked really hard to get where I am, and I think having the experience of working on a monthly magazine, Superdrug was a bi-monthly, so every two months, and then now Stylist is a weekly. So I've kind of worked across all kind of types of magazines, which is good. And I feel like I've just really, I guess I've just grown into the roles. And when I look back, it's really bizarre to think that I started out as an intern and now suddenly I'm a beauty editor. Like, that was always what I dreamed of doing, and then it somehow happened. But yeah, I think I feel like I'm proof that if you work hard enough, you can get where you want to be. And I didn't have it all handed to me on a plate by any stretch. Like, I think the fact that I don't live in London, well, I didn't live in London, have no family here, but kind of just managed to make it work through sheer determination and having like a boss that really believed in me, because I genuinely owe my career to Inga, because without her I definitely wouldn't be here. Like, she saw something in me that made her want to never have another intern again, that made her want to pay me to work for her, and she just always had my back. Having someone like that supports you is so like priceless. But I also think it's kind of taught me to always give people a chance as well. So like, I always make sure that, or when I was looking after interns, that I would always get people in that had never interned anywhere before, because I realised the importance of just getting that foot in the door. And I think as soon as you've got one internship under your belt, you like the whole world opens and you can kind of jump around from one place to another. And obviously that jobs don't come up that often, but when they do, I just think having experience is so much more valuable than anything else. And I'm not saying I agree with unpaid internships by any stretch, but I also think that it's important to know that like journalism isn't a job that you can just come into. Like, you get a degree and then you suddenly come in at like mid-level. Like, I know there's a lot of industries out there that happens, but journalism just isn't one of them. You kind of have to work your way up, which is, it's a pain in the arse, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's the ethics of it, I think, have got a long way to go, but equally hard work and determination and a good work ethic like really does go such a long way. I also kind of understand the importance of like just having some contacts in the industry. So I feel like when people do email me and ask me for help with like their dissertations, or they email me just asking me for advice, like I always try and reply. Like, it might take me a while, but I honestly remember like whenever I got a reply from someone at a magazine, I was like, oh my god, like this is like incredible, like this is so helpful. So I always try and be that person. Like, I think it's important to try and pay it back, you know, which is probably why I'm doing this video as well. Not that I'm paying anyone back, but you know what I mean. Like, it's just good to kind of lay it all out and let people know that I haven't just like been handed this job on a plate and I've actually had to like work for it. One thing that I remember like really clearly is that in my first lecture, we had someone, well, the lecturer was like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I remember I said to him, oh, working at a glossy and living in London. And he laughed at me. And I think about that quite a lot, and I'm like, I think that's just such a bad thing to have done, because actually it's probably not a bad thing, because I feel like it gave me the determination and it kind of gave me the fire that I needed to kind of succeed. Me and my dad were talking the other day. He said something about like me having the self-belief that I needed, because I remember we had a conversation back when I was working at McDonald's, and he was like, and I was like, oh, I just want to work at Cosmo, and he was like, oh, you can't just work there, like that has to be the end goal, like you have to like climb the hill to get to where you want to be. And I was like, no, I just want to work at Cosmo. And then I ended up like, that was my first proper job. And I just think sometimes you can prove people wrong, and sometimes you can sort of get where you want to be if you just like really put your head down, have the right attitude. I think having the right attitude will just get you such a long way. And I think talent always prevails as well, and I think that's such an important thing to remember. So yeah, I don't really know how to end this or what I've really said, but hopefully this is kind of giving you a bit of a clearer idea of like my journey. Obviously everyone else's is different, and I'd really love it if some people, some other journalists and even PRs or anyone else like within the beauty industry did something similar and told us about like their journey, because I feel like not only am I really nosy, but I also just think it's really interesting to like see how people have ended up where they are today and how they got there. I also think it'd just be some inspiration for people trying to get into the same sort of career. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm always happy to answer DMs or comments about how I got my job, or how, like, any advice or anything, or any specific questions. So please just let me know. And yeah, I hope you found this a little bit interesting. I don't know, but yeah, so that's me. I'm done. Over and out. Bye.